Welcome to episode 39 of Priviso Live, the podcast where we unpack the big issues in information security, privacy and digital rights, right here in South Africa and beyond. I'm Lynn, your host, and joining me as always are my colleagues Stephen and John.
Great to be back, Lynn.
Always ready to dig into the shadows of the digital world.
Today's episode covers a landmark local case involving a cyber extortionist. And then we zoom out globally to look at one of the most infamous spyware tools of the last decade, Pegasus. Let's dive in. First up, a big legal win for South African cybercrime prosecution. As reported by IT Web, a Pretoria court sentenced a cyber extortionist to 8 years behind bars for a ransomware attack and attempting to extort 4 million rand from a company. Guys, this is rare, isn't it?
Very. We've seen countless ransomware attacks, but few result in meaningful convictions. What stood out here was the collaboration between the Hawks and the cybercrime unit. The attacker used ransomware to lock up critical business files, then demanded millions to release them. Classic playbook.
I completely agree.
What made this one different was that they tracked the funds and communications. It's a reminder. Threat actors can be caught if there's strong forensic capability and interagency cooperation. Plus, the ruling sets a precedent that cybercrime will land you real jail time.
It's also a wake-up call for businesses. Your response to a ransomware event matters. Call in help early, preserve evidence, and never negotiate alone. It's not just about the money, it's about setting the right legal and ethical tone.
Now let's talk about Pegasus, the infamous spyware developed by Israel's NSO group. It came to my attention because of the way Greta Thunberg and her supporters threw their phones into the ocean when intercepted by the IDF. I saw a comment that they'd probably been infected with Pegasus anyway. It has been used to target journalists, activists, heads of state, and business leaders. How did it all begin, Stephen?
Pegasus first became apparent around 2016, but it had likely been operational for years before. It was originally marketed to governments as a tool for fighting terrorism and organized crime, a lawful intercept tool. But as reporting later uncovered, it was often used far outside those bounds.
Right. And technically, it's incredibly advanced. Pegasus could infect a device without the user doing anything, what we call a zero-click exploit. Just receiving a malicious iMessage or WhatsApp could compromise your phone. Once infected, it had access to the microphone, camera, messages, GPS, the works.
Concerning, right? So essentially, your phone could be turned against you with no trace?
Exactly. Pegasus was designed to avoid detection. It self-deletes if it thinks it might be discovered. It's the digital equivalent of a ghost.
One of the more chilling things is the scope. The Pegasus Project, a consortium of global journalists, revealed that over 50,000 phone numbers were potentially targeted. Victims included politicians in France, India, Mexico, and even South Africa.
That's right. There were reports suggesting local figures might have been on the list. So how does this fit with current South African legislation? Could our privacy laws have prevented such abuse?
Unfortunately, not entirely. Pegasus targets operate across borders. Our POPIA framework in the Cybercrimes Act is strong on paper, but cross-jurisdictional cyber surveillance is extremely hard to regulate. We need more robust regional cooperation and cyber diplomacy.
There's also the dual-use tech problem. Tools like Pegasus are pitched as crime-fighting gear, but often become weapons of political control. The UN and EU have both called for moratoriums on such spyware until clearer safeguards are in place.
Is Pegasus still active?
NSO Group claims it only sells to vetted government agencies and has cut off clients who misuse the tool. But given how quickly tech evolves, we suspect variants of Pegasus, or copycat platforms, are absolutely in use today, perhaps even more discreetly.
Exactly. And the commercial spyware market is booming. Once these tools exist, they tend to spread. Think of it like cyber arms proliferation. That's why transparency, oversight, and independent audits are so critical.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners, especially those in government, media, or high-risk professions?
Stay updated on mobile OS patches. Use secure comms apps like Signal and consider hardware-level protections. For example, some high-risk journalists now carry secondary clean phones for sensitive work.
And most importantly, be aware that surveillance isn't sci-fi anymore. It's a business. And where there's a market, there will always be players, both legitimate and not.
Okay, before we sign off completely, John, you mentioned something off-air that I think our listeners would find very interesting.
Guilty as charged. I've started talking to AI on my commute. You know, voice mode, conversational AI. It's like having a co-pilot, doesn't get grumpy, never misses a beat.
Wait, like full-on conversation? You're just chatting with your dashboard?
Yup. I'll ask questions, throw out thoughts, even rehearse ideas for these podcasts. It's surprisingly responsive, and sometimes more insightful than my morning coffee.
That's actually brilliant. But it's also a sign of something bigger, isn't it? The rise of AI companions. Not just assistants, companions.
Exactly. We've gone from voice commands and reminders to real-time conversations that feel emotionally aware. For some people, especially those who are isolated or under pressure, that kind of interaction can be comforting.
It's not just convenience anymore, it's presence. And it raises questions. When AI feels like a friend, what does that do to how we connect with real people?
There's a psychological angle here. On one hand, AI companions could support mental health, especially for people who lack social connections. On the other hand, what happens when the line between human and machine empathy blurs?
And from a privacy angle, it's complex. These conversations, even the casual ones, can be stored, processed, and mined. If your companion knows everything about your day, your feelings, your frustrations, who owns that data?
And let's not forget, these AIs aren't neutral. They're trained on values, curated content, and corporate goals. So their advice or comfort could come with bias baked in.
So the real frontier might not be just smarter AI, it's trusted AI. I suspect that we will have to consider the security implications in a later episode. Before we close off, we just want to remind South African companies that we all need to have our Payer Section 32 submissions in by 30th June. This covers the period 1st April 2024 to 31st March 25.
If you want to hear more of the same, don't forget to subscribe or like our channel to receive future episodes. You can find us on all primary podcast channels, including Apple, Samsung, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. As always, this is sponsored by Priviso Consulting, your partner when trust matters.
And remember, if you need security, risk or ICT legislation assistance, contact Priviso directly at admin@priviso.co.za.
Until
Until next time, stay safe.